Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Joe's Computer Museum, where tonight we actually have our guest here. This is the apology stream where I get to apologize to my guest that was supposed to be here last night, but not actually last night because I'm the one who screwed up anyway. So to my left, right, I don't know how this is backwards, right, to my right here is Petar Puskaric. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful tonight. At least I'm actually physically here.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
So, you know, the detail on that for everybody who might be watching. Yeah, I screwed up. I had a test stream scheduled for Wednesday, and then this stream scheduled with Petar for Thursday at the same time. And when I was doing all my planning in my head, I got them backwards and then scheduled or did all the promotion for tonight's stream for yesterday, and then ended up disappointing Petar, unfortunately. And then all of the other people I was supposed to do the test stream with. So This is the apology stream to everybody out there that I might have, done the thing to last night or whatever. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
So since we're actually all here tonight, let's do a quick recap of what last night's stream was about, and then we'll get into tonight's stream and why we have our special guest here. So last night I went over the reverse engineering process, hopefully well enough for everybody, the reverse engineering process of the Apple III encoder chip, and how I went about making a chip that is Apple III compatible, but also Apple II compatible and compatible with the generic AY5 3600 Pro chip. But there is Petar's version. And what we weren't able to get into, because he wasn't here to talk to us about that, was how Petar helped me figure out and test the Apple III Plus details of that. So I'll start with, basically, I have all of the machines to test it on, but the Apple III Plus, and because I'm a man of quality, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean, I wanted to be absolutely sure that it worked on an Apple III Plus before I put these out for sale on my website. So I reached out to the Apple III community, like, anybody have an Apple III Plus and knows how to hack stuff, want to help me? And Petar was like, yep, I want to do the thing. So let's talk about that process a little bit. So
all right.
First off, well, I sent it to you, and then what happened?
Sent it to me. It came in the mail. It survived. It was awesome. And then I decided that, you know what, I need to actually go take apart my Apple III Pluses and figure out what I have. So I spent a day basically disassembling all four of my machines to figure out what in the world I had and what actually worked, because I had to find out, well, do I have working keyboards and working machines to even test this thing with?
Did you drop all of them 3 inches first?
Pretty much. The one almost dropped about a foot by accident, but it was in the box. So it's okay.
Accident. You don't have to lie. It's fine.
Yeah. So in the end, it turns out that I have a regular Apple III. That's a 5-volt system, 5-volt memory. I've got a regular 5-volt, but it has the 3 Plus upgrade on it. So the 3 Plus keyboard on a regular 3. And then I have apparently 2 Apple III Pluses that are the OEM. So the new board, the new layout with the DB25 disk I/O on the back.
Got it.
So, okay, so I got that figured out. Then started running all the different, the dealer diagnostics disks on it across them all, and found out that basically 3 of the 4 have bad RAM all across them. And the one was
only 3 of the 4?
3 of the 4, yeah. So the original Apple III actually did work correctly the first time up, which was nice, because it's actually my oldest one that I waited. Yeah, that one was a computer resale store in Ohio that used to be right next to the Micro Center in Columbus, way back.
Oh yeah, over on Bethel Avenue.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was.
In case anybody in the stream doesn't know, we're both old Ohio guys. I'm still here. He's in better climes in Texas, but so we're talking about things you guys don't even know about. But anyway, continue.
So anyway, it's my really old one. It sat on a shelf for probably about 10 years while I was in Ohio, and I tried to get the guy to sell it to me. And he said, "No, it's on consignment. I can't get a hold of the guy." Blah blah blah. So probably about 2013, 2014 or so, right before I left Ohio, a friend of mine was in the store saying they finally put a price on your Apple III. So I left work, ran over there, bought the thing, and finally had it. And it actually works just fine. So that one was good. So we have a 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't help much with the 3+ keyboards. Started going through everything. My newest Apple III Plus failed the ROM check of all things. I'm like, how's that even possible? And it turns out that once I figured out which RAM was bad, it fixed the ROM as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was It was one of the first chips. It was probably using zero page to do the ROM check, and
yeah, that was the one when I asked on the Apple III group. It's like, okay, so how do I tell what this was it U10? And it turns out the dealer diagnostic that I was using, that particular version of it, looked at the schematic, not the actual 5-volt board silk screens.
Wow.
And someone gave me that and we coded it. Then I went back and did the other diagnostic on it that I had, and it said, oh yeah, that's a D8. And it's like, okay, cool, I can find that.
Bingo. Yep.
So once I got done with everything, now I have a 5-volt memory board on an Apple III that has 6 chips missing. So that's going to stay out. All my Apple III Plus versions are all working. All right, cool. So now the fun starts. I yank out the old encoder on the one machine, and it was perma-welded in there. It was the hardest to remove chip I've ever had to deal with.
Wow.
And I thought I was actually going to break the socket getting it out. But it finally freed up and I got it. Okay, so I put Joe's encoder in, start running through keys, and oh, this is interesting. It's like, I got
this is where it gets fun.
Yeah,
as if having to fix 4 of your computers just to test the encoder wasn't fun enough. But
exactly, it was one of those. Yeah, and this is like day 2 at like 1 in the morning.
You had no idea I was going to make you work for it, did you?
No, but I needed to go through them anyway. So I put the chip in, get it, start doing dealer diagnostics, and it's like I get down to it was like Y, U, I, and like everything's transposed.
DNF, H,
DNF, S,
H,
and D.
Yeah, like everything right near the left middle of the keyboard. 4 and 5 were backwards and stuff like that. Yeah.
And let's see if I have it here. Yeah, if people can see that. That was what was wrong. So
yes,
it was a whole slew of things.
And so now everybody knows why I wanted to test it first.
Yeah.
So
and then eventually it's like, okay, so I gotta tell Joe that how do we program this thing? So I've got this really cool, GQ 4x4 USB programmer that's supposed to be able to program anything. Well,
except this chip.
Except this chip, and accept anything like this chip without a $18 decoder board that you have to get from China.
And so we were just throwing ideas back and forth. There's got to be some way we can do this, wire it up to the thing, hack it up, and the earlier version of that board actually had the ICSP header on it, but you had the slightly older version where they removed that to make you buy the $18 adapter.
Well, it's actually the newer version. The older one.
That's what I meant to say.
Version,
the slightly newer version. So we were kind of up Poopy Creek there. We couldn't just hack together an adapter to do it.
So we started looking on the internet again, and I found that, you can program basically Arduinos and things using ICSP, which we were talking about earlier about that's the protocol it needs, with the Raspberry Pi. I'm like, okay, cool. Except that particular piece of code doesn't work with these microcontrollers.
No, because I had to pick the weirdest, most exotic version of the PIC 16 that exists.
Pretty much.
Anyway.
So then, about 10 minutes later, Joe pings me back saying, have you seen this? And it was a link showing that you could use a basically Pickle with a Raspberry Pi. And it looked
Pickles
like it was
basically
promising.
It's a command line tool that allows you to program PICs, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
And apparently it works. So I ended up rigging up this little test adapter that matched up with a diagram that Joe sent me of his particular encoder chip. And then I had to figure out and learn some new things after all this mess again of what constituted VPP, what's VSS, what's VDD, and which does that mean? Is that ground or 3.3 volts? Which is when I learned that
I was no help at all, because I know I'm programming this in C. I'm using the data sheets to connect wires to wires. I threw it an Apple III and it worked. Like, at this point, I don't know anything. Linux, no. Raspberry Pi, heck no. Good luck.
Yeah, Joe actually had a programmer of sorts to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here piecing this together for the first time. So I'm going through my old collection of parts from a previous job that we had Raspberry Pis doing all sorts of stuff. So I found my old Archer breadboard, hooked up the GPIO bridge to it, found some basically pin wires, and hooked it up via the diagram I thought was right. And then I come to find out about half an hour later, GPIO, what I thought was 9, 10, and 11 down the side, no. It's GPIO 10, 9, 11. So on the actual Raspberry Pi, the way they're mapped.
Why?
Yeah. If I would have just actually looked at it, it probably would have made sense.
Here, we're going to make it easy for new people to learn programming and hacking and electronics. But we're for young players, the pins are out of order.
Exactly. So then I got it hooked up. I was all excited. And first thing comes up, it says, oh, it finds the chip. All right, yes. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
We didn't fry the chip anyway.
We didn't fry it. But I'm pulling code off of it, and I tell it to dump the ROM, and it says, there's no data in the EEPROM. Okay, so let me dump the rest of it. Send it back to Joe. And he's like, yeah, that looks like the configuration registers.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, that's what I get.
That one backwards pin, I think you had 5 volts on the program pin or something. Yeah. And so basically you held it high for too long, and the data just degraded.
It blanked it hard. Yep. But the configuration was still there and not dead. So we said, okay, let me unmount it from the breadboard again, throw it back in the Apple III Plus, and just see what happens. Yeah, nothing happens.
Toast.
There's no keyboard entry, nothing. So back to the programmer, and then Joe sends me down the current production build again, and lo and behold, it programmed it. Tried it out. We're back to normal.
Sweet.
So that was like the third night. We're into this, and I think that's kind of where we left off. And then you sent me a first revised code, and we ended up going through. I think I've got 5 different backups of that file now, different versions. As we would correct each of those keys 1 or 2 at a time until we got down to basically the very end. So normal, let's say that we ran into all those little key swaps down the middle part of the encoding. Those would work fine. And then it's like, okay, why can't I not get the delete key to work? And it always throws a bad code. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll let Joe deal with that for a while, because I have no idea, except it thinks it's supposed to be a 127. I know that part.
It's supposed to be a 127, and wasn't it throwing a 128? Yeah,
it's throwing a 128. Yeah.
So I think when I looked back at it, I think I just had the wrong bit column set or something like that. So it was all zeros instead of all ones or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the delete key was also one of those weird ones where they added the high bit for the first time on the new key.
Yes. And that's another special thing. We'll dig into that for just a half second. The Apple III and the Apple III Plus, all of the keys that are not your regular typing keys. So tab, escape, enter, some of the like minus and slashes, the arrow keys, things like that. Those will all have the high bit set when it's sent out of the encoder, with the exception of the enter or the return key on the normal part of the keyboard. The enter key on the numeric pad has that bit set, and that's so that the Apple III can know which keys are being pressed in the case of keys that have where it's on the keyboard twice. Like the minus key is on the keyboard twice, for example. So if you're doing anything fancy and you want to know exactly which key is pressed, you can check for that high bit and test that. So we had a couple of those wrong in the Apple III set as well. And most of that was all my fault. As a matter of fact, it was all my fault.
We did find that one text document, which I sent over, which is like, oh, I never knew that, but even existed.
Yes, the Apple III actually has like a 2-byte keyboard mode you can put it in.
Yep.
To where the first byte is the actual ASCII byte and the second byte is some sort of control data. So you can get more information about what key was being pressed down, aside from simply how the encoder is modifying the ASCII data that comes through it. And that's because if you look at the schematics, like control, shift, caps lock, all of those things are actually, they go into the encoder chip for regular function, but they also split off and bypass the encoder and go into another series of flip-flops that are cleared and triggered every time SOS services the interrupt, basically. Nerd stuff, basically. But and so that's what that's all about. And that jogged my memory because the encoder still encodes some of that. Not all of it bypasses the encoder. So I went back and said, oh yeah, well, I forgot to set the high bit on that one and the high bit on that one. Oh, hey, look, it's passing the diagnostic now.
Finally.
But And
at first it was just to get through stuff, I was actually trying with the dealer diagnostics disc for the Apple III instead of the 3 Plus, which gave us some other weird answers at first.
Oh yeah.
But once we were able to get that delete key added in, then I could finally get to testing the numeric keypad the rest of the way, because it would, at least let me get there. And then that's where we ran into finally the difference between the return and enter. And even though they're the same, sort of not.
If you're using like a standard sorry, I'm a PC nerd. I would call it a BIOS call. But if you're using a firmware call or Business Basic or something, and you check the value of the enter key, it's always going to return 13, which is Control M. But they are different because of that high bit being set. Basically, Business Basic doesn't care because it's not programmed to care. But yeah, it's there. So the dealer diagnostic actually is testing that low-level hardware to make sure that information gets through. I have some questions in the chat. Do you mind if I answer them real quick?
Go for it.
I got lots of them. We've just been kind of gabbing on here. People saying hello, Herb and Chris, and Mark is here from Mac Effects. How you doing? Retro Bits is here. Michael's Workshop. Did he apologize yet? Yes, you were late and you missed it, sir. I apologized at the beginning, and that is not my fault. That's your fault. So you need to apologize for us for being late. Grandma hates tech is saying you need to move slightly to your right. There you go. Okay, fine.
There you go.
I don't care. I personally don't care. Michael, when do you get your apology? I'm sorry. I don't know how I upset you, but I'm sorry. Somebody's sending me an email. La 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 la. Ripnik Racing says, "Thank you so much for doing this." And they're asking about a question on the 2C version. If you order this model, does that mean it cannot be used on anything besides a 2C? No, this is completely universal. I dropped it on the floor.
Not needs reprogrammed, but universal.
Yes. If you order the 2C version, which is the version without headers, what happens is when I make it, I do not solder the pins on here, which means by default, it is in Apple IIc or Apple IIe only mode, but the programming is still there. So what you could do is you could solder in your own headers right there, or you can just bridge it over with some solder to change the mode to the mode that you want to change it. The programming is all in the chip. It's just on the Apple IIc, the no header version, those pins are missing to ensure that it clears anything that's sitting above it, because the Apple IIc is very tight. Yeah. Now, if you have an Apple IIc and you don't have any expansion boards or any memory boards in there, you could probably order the header version. It'd be fine. If you order it with, if you have like a RamWorks card or anything in it, hold on just a second, I'll show you. Sorry about that little delay. If you've got one of those, a ZRAM card, thank you to Javier. He graciously gave this to me to repair. As you can see, there is not a lot of room underneath this card. It's just there's no room underneath there. So this isn't going to clear because the chip's got to go right underneath here. It won't clear that. So that's why I have that option to not have the header. So if you order it without the header, I just won't solder it in there. No. So that way, you get the right thing you need. You don't have to send it back to me. You don't have to do the whole thing where I'm trying to, where you got to clip it with pins and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So that said, if you do order the wrong one, all you do have to do is snip the pins off and it'll fit in there. So.
And I will say that when I was testing it in the 3 especially, it does not get hot at all, so it's got to be really low power.
Yeah. Well, it's your classic new technology CMOS stuff. So it's yeah. Hey, Logan, how you doing? Logan was asking me a question about it, whether I'm going to do a version of this for the Apple II and the Apple II Plus. And the answer to that question is that it is not in my plans in the short term. But I'm always thinking of things like that. I might do a version later, but Reactive Micro has their super encoder that handles the Apple II and the Apple II Plus. So I don't want to step on Henry's toes since he's such a good guy and he's already done a lot for the community. I don't want to try to overlap a product that's already existing there unless there's so much clamor for that. That's like, we want this thing and we want it now. And I got 100 people telling me we want the thing. Then I'll consider it. So that's basically the only thing there. I just don't want to do that. Michael's asking if I can do a keyboard controller for the iPad. Sir, you're funny. Hello again from Panama. Great series. Thank you, Vita Digital. Yeah, so I think I got most of the questions answered. Yeah, we're about 20 minutes in here. Yeah. So did you have unless anybody has any more questions about the keyboard controller itself, unless you want me to go over the actual reverse engineering process again, which I talked about in last night's stream. We're going to switch to a really cool subject that Petar has regarding these Okidata. Is it an Okidata ROM chips or something like that?
Yeah. So some of you may out there, maybe if you call my constant quest for the last 30 years now, probably maybe 25, 30 years, that finally came to a head and finished up right around Christmas time last year, 2020. So yeah, so we'll go back to when I was, I was 10 years old, got my first Apple II Plus and an Okidata 82A printer. Mm-hmm. And that's when I first became acquainted with, I guess, quality control and sales. As it turns out, what happened was my family purchased the machine secondhand through a computer land in Canton, Ohio. And we got it. It was great. Got the Okidata printer with it. And what was supposed to be a Microtech Dumpling GX printer card for it. Mm-hmm. Well, I spent probably 7 or 8 months trying to get that thing to print graphics, and nothing would ever work. Eventually, I did force it to get through, but that was only after I bought this really cool add-on that I had to convince my dad to buy for $100, which was it's basically 4K of EPROMs mm-hmm. To let the Okidata 82A printer print dot addressable graphics. And it turns out that I would have needed it anyway, because the card that they actually sold us was the Microtech RV611 in a GX box.
Oh, one of those. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I've been there before.
Yeah. So it was the dumb printer card.
Industry, that crap happens all the frickin' time. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So by that time, for a 10 to 12-year-old, it was quite a frustration in getting that stuff all working. All right. So I had that printer, used it all the way up through high school and whatnot. And I think I actually took it to college with me in 1990. But by then I was using it with a Apple II GS that we got it when it was brand new. Mm-hmm. And then also had an image writer too. But somewhere around 1992-ish, the power supply in that old printer died. And I chucked it. And I chucked it without those EPROMs. Or with those EPROMs in it.
Oh, no!
Yeah. So
you forgot all the work you went through to make that thing work.
Yep. Totally my fault. Biffed it, and it was not
Adam,
good.
how you doing?
So then I forgot about it for a while, and then probably about 2001, 2002, I decided, hey, maybe I can go get another one and build my Apple II Plus I had from a kid back up again. Yeah, that's a little harder to do nowadays, since it looks like the EEPROMs themselves are not archived anywhere, not even the stock ones. So little by little, I'd check on eBay, find versions of things here and there, and I'd buy them up, but never the 82A Okidata 1. Never could find them. I found one at one time for an 83A, but missed that auction and never did find one again until recently. And even that version of the EEPROM may actually be defective. So when it gets here, I'll pull it again and see. Garrett Myers actually has it and pulled code off of it, but they got inconsistent reads off the chips with their EEPROM programmer. And so we're going to try it on mine and get that. Well, we'll see. And that's for the 83A version of it, which is the wide carriage. So, yeah, I'm just a real nerd when it comes to these stupid printers. So,
well, I mean, you kind of walked trial through fire when you were younger to make the thing work.
yes.
I find that's part of the whole magic of our hobby. We all have that unicorn. We all have that one thing that when we were going through our young computer phase, as we get older and we have our midlife crisis and we need all of our toys and we totally don't have too many of them or anything like that. We all have that unicorn or that, that golden ticket thing that we want. For me, it was always an Apple IIc.
Okay.
Because I love that, but in your case, it was odd printer modifications.
Yeah, I just wanted to print out a picture.
Yeah.
Which you can do easily later on when I had the GS and the image writer too. But back when you had a 2 plus, 64K RAM and print shop that didn't even work with the printer, even today. You had to have the 92 or the 92 or 93, which was like one model level up from what I had in order to actually work. But Garfield Cartoon Creator, that worked wonders on it, but you had to have the Okidata chip.
Yep.
But yeah, so fast forward finally to the end of last year, a guy by the name of Eddie Barron, who's also in the Facebook groups, was going through his garage of old stuff from Silicon Valley where he grew up. And he's like, I heard you're looking for this old printer and I might actually have the EEPROMs that we burned specifically for this back in the day. And I'm like, okay, send it to me. I don't care what it costs. I made a deal with him.
Here, take my money.
Yeah, it's like, if this solves this problem, finally, it'll be awesome. And sure enough, pulled his EEPROMs off the control board that he sent the whole thing, and finally have the two 2K chips finally archived, threw them in my my repurchased Okidata printer that I had, and it works perfectly. So finally found them, got them in. So since then, since I had a few versions and different printers built up, I've now been on this weird kick to collect all of the firmware versions that they did for the 82A, the 83A, 92, 93, and 84. And the only one left now is basically the 83A Okidata 1. And then, just recently I picked up the IBM compatibility modules for the 92 and 93s. And that's kind of neat. That makes them into IBM graphics printers.
Wow, yeah.
So you can use them with some other things. And then, ironically, I guess, the first printer I bought that started the recollection of all this stuff I thought would be cool and work, I actually did get to work with Print Shop finally. Because it's a weird add-on board that of the 3 EEPROMs that go on the back of the controller, you take out all 3, pop this new interface board on it that uses 2 of the 3, and it gives you expanded features. Well, that expanded feature set it turns it into an Epson FX80 with graph tracks. Yeah, and it gets some extra fonts and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty cool little add-on from like 1989, I think it was. So it was late in the season for that. But it works. So now one of my goals is to actually create another add-on board that combines everything onto a bigger chip and then
like
select out
like a
which mode
custom
you want to run in.
solution where you can just like flip some switches or send, or even better,
Yep.
you send it a command over the line or something like an
Yep.
escape sequence, and it changes the printer type. Or
either that or using the little spin wheel that no one really uses much for anything on the front of the printer, the little yellow tilt tab, and just say, here's position 0 through 5, pick your ROM.
Cool. That's awesome.
We'll see. And as I was discussing with you earlier, it's like, yeah, since I can't solder to save my life, so that might be a project that'll take a while to come. But
well, if you need help with it, with making prototypes or soldering together prototypes, you let me know. But you'll have to ship them to me, and I'll ship them back to you because I don't have one of those printers. So
okay. Oh, I've got 2 extra printers now.
Oh, okay. So. Testing unit.
Yes.
And it only costs $5,000 to get it halfway across the United States because heavy, but whatever.
Yeah, that was actually one of the barriers I had. It's like, I can find these printers on eBay, but they're like 120 plus 60 shipping.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's a 40-year-old printer.
It's like, how much do I really like this Quest that much? Is this the toy at the bottom of the cereal box or the Holy Grail? Right?
Exactly. And I've got a few other projects I want to take care of in that realm. Hopefully over the next few years, since this one kind of finally came to fruition. So
basically, what you're saying with this entire project is that you've taken the #1 bane of every IT technician in existence, the printer, and made it your hobby.
There you go.
Okay. Good. So you like pain then, right?
Pain, yeah. So, hey.
That's what we say. So, in case anybody in the chat here is curious, anybody watching, I work for a managed IT company. So my day job is fixing servers and answering people's questions and dealing with all the types of things. Like I helped an attorney do a password reset today. Just and earlier in the week, I was programming plugins for WordPress. I just do all nice stuff. But what we always say in amongst our crew of technicians is like, everything sucks, but printers are the worst. They're just awful. You plug it in, you can't print to it. It doesn't work. It's spitting out blank pages. Somebody put the wrong toner in it. And half the time we're just like, go buy a new printer, plug it into your computer. I'll program it remotely. Call me when you get it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And now let's try hooking them to a GS or a Mac.
Yep. Got a lot of questions being thrown around here. Folks are talking about, somebody asked me, I think it was Logan. He asked me if this chip will work in the Apple II or Apple II Plus that keyboards that happen to use the 3600. And my answer to that is it might. I don't have one to test it in, and as we've talked about, I don't like to say yes until I have actually seen it work. Again, I've worked in IT so long that I know that theory and practice are completely separate things that almost never touch in the middle. There's the Venn diagram is like that. So until I see it working with my own 2 eyeballs, I can't tell you yes. But the answer is probably.
Is there an easy way to tell which one those are?
Yeah, take one apart, take a picture of it, show me the chip. Okay. I mean, if it is an AY5 3600 Pro, I'm 99% certain it'll just plug in and work. Because in the Apple IIe mode, that is exactly what this chip is, down to nearly the timing of it. It is really, really close. But if it's like the AY5 3600, not the Pro, that is a different animal. It has a different key mapping and the pins are different. So you have to be careful with that. The 3600 Pro are not the same thing. So
cool.
Folks talking about printers. I do not understand the concept of too many. Retro Brits was talking. Yeah, when I said talking about having too many computers back here. Yeah, no, there's never too many, except in my case, where as you can see, I'm out of space. You can't see the floor, but there's stuff piled up down here too. Yeah. Folks are saying hi to each other. Michael was asking Adam what hacks there are for the Grappler 2, turning grapplers into Lyrons and stuff. I didn't know you could do that. Is that the thing?
Yeah, that's actually a project I posted 3-4 months ago, I think it was, when I first tried it.
That's right.
Yeah, it was. I never knew how to say his name, but that HK, whatever, has a. Or had, the site's been down for a little while. He had the do-it-yourself smart port basically EEPROM set up to where you could take a Grappler Plus. That's the one he tested it with anyway. And I have not tried it with any other printer cards yet, but as long as the decoding is the same, it should work. So basically you take that basically it's the 4K EEPROM chip, the 2732, and you put his code on it, shove it back on the board, put it in slot 5, or actually put it in any slot, and then make sure you have a disk controller in slot 6, and it'll auto route the smart port cards or calls from basically that grappler card across the disk 2 controller in slot 6 drive 1, and then you can put your floppy EMU.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I actually got
like it.
So the 32 meg partition with all the games, the total replay, it actually works on my Apple II Plus using that card setup. It was the wildest thing.
I want to thank Adam McGaughy out there, if I can interrupt here. He gave me a $4.99 super chat. First super chat I've ever had. Thank you, Adam. You get firsties. Awesome. So anyway, continue. You didn't super chat usually is for people to say, "Hey, pay attention to me. I got something you need to ask," but he didn't. He just put $4.99 in the bucket. So thank you, sir.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's interesting.
But you have to make sure that the cabling is right, or you will fry your floppy EMU or your Unidisc 3.5. So that whole deal where you have to have pin 12 removed.
Gotcha.
Just because you're not supposed to hook a 3.5 drive to your Disc 2 controller. So
Adam is telling me my stickers were dumb. I have some super chat stickers too. Apparently, they're not cool enough. I'm not one of the cool kids, so I'll have to fix that. Thank you, Adam, for letting me know. Jeremy Breckles was asking me, "Hey Joe, how do you feel about the Amiga computer line?" They're okay. I have one. I have an Amiga 500. I've had it for 2 years, 3 years. I haven't done anything with it yet because I've had too much to do with the Apple II lately. But it's in my queue of things to play with eventually. Put a hard drive controller in it, get it booting up, use FrogFind or something, get it on the internet. So eventually it's there. I have no problems with the Amiga. They were very important. As a Star Trek fan, I can tell you I have a soft spot in my heart for Amiga for all of the tools they used on the Amiga to produce Star Trek Voyager. The Voyager model that you see in Star Trek Voyager most of the time was produced and modeled completely on an Amiga. So,
wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so fun times.
I still want a Pi Storm that just came out.
A Pi Storm? What is that?
Basically, it's a 68,000 CPU replacement.
Oh.
That's basically built on a Raspberry Pi A3 Plus.
Okay. And
you drop it with a little carrier board right into your Amiga 500 or whatever. I think
it goes to the CPU socket?
It's a CPU socket, yeah.
How the heck does that even function? How's it even fast enough?
I don't know. And they just posted some speed results and things. So it's essentially equivalent to a 67 megahertz 020, depending on some of the benchmarks they were showing. It's like, that's pretty cool. If I can
quote Will Wheaton, man, we live in the future. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
And I particularly want it so I can hook up my Amiga 500 back again to the AMAX 2 Plus stuff I've got, so I can actually turn it back into a Mac Plus.
Yes. We were talking about that on another live stream during Marchintosh. One of the folks, he might actually be in the chat here. I think it was it Dr. Dave did that? One of them was like, "Yeah, I have the fastest Mac on the Mac Plus, and it's not a Mac, it's an Amiga. Deal with it." Shades. It was delicious. This was great. Yeah.
But it doesn't work well on 512K RAM. I can tell you that.
Yes. So plus RAM, plus ID SCSI, plus RTG, and plus some other stuff. Retrobit says yes.
Cool.
MacFX. My favorite bit was the clip with Scotty and the mouse. Ooh, here we go. I gotta recreate it. Hello, computer. Yes. Star Trek 4.
Yep.
Yes.
I want my transparent aluminum.
Yes. Transparent aluminum? Not now, Madeline. Yes. So, people in the chat, I want to try to make this go for, how quaint. Yes. I want to try to make this go for about an hour if Petar wants to keep going. We've kind of talked about all the things we wanted to talk about. Does anybody have any questions about anything nerdy? Apple II, Mac, Star Trek, computers, I don't care. Whatever. It's like this is some sort of professional live stream or something. Nah, we'll just do whatever. More apologies, please. I'm sorry you're here, Mike. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, though, again, Petar, I do want to. I want to make sure that everybody knows and understands it was my fault. He was not on the stream last night because he was not physically present.
That's right.
Because I screwed up the date. So, yes.
What was even weirder is when I came back home and I actually checked what he had posted out there. The actual, I guess, the advertisement for it, whatever, it actually does say the 28th, and I didn't catch it either.
Yeah. Just, and it's like, because if I hadn't pre-tweeted it like 24 hours in advance, I could have just been like, we'll just not tell anybody and we'll just roll forward with it. But it is what it is. So, Muslim said, good live stream yesterday and made us all think, whoa, we need to meet this Petar guy. Here he is. Here he is, everybody. He is super awesome, by the way. He's a cool guy. So
I think this is probably the first time we've seen each other.
Yeah. I think this is the first time we've ever actually talked directly. Because you were at K-Fest in 2019, were you?
Nope. I wanted to go, but I ended up having some work or something that came up in the way. And then I got to attend virtually last year, which is my first K-Fest, which is, is what it was.
It's going to be virtual again this year. So it's going to be like, there's the after hours chat in the Discord, which is fun, but like,
that was always fun.
Yeah. So Herb says you look just like Javier, by the way, Petar.
I don't know about that.
Somebody said last night he looked like an actor or something. I don't remember which actor they said, but he was like, I'll take it. I'll take the compliment. That's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody was asking, where was that question? Any reverse engineering in the Amiga? Like if I have any plans for that? I have to learn the Amiga first. I have turned my Amiga on exactly once to make sure it functioned. And then hooked up a funky floppy parallel floppy writer adapter dongle thingy in order to make a disk so I could boot it. And I ended up booting Amiga OS and then Out of This World, and then shut it off, and it's been on the shelf over there for 2.5 years.
Gotcha.
I just made sure it worked and put it away. So, so to answer that question, Stanley Tucci, that's what he said. He said he looked like Stanley Tucci. So yeah, I don't have any immediate plans. I do have some other plans for some Apple stuff that all I can say is they're really neat. I can't tell you about them yet. That's all I can say until my the person who is hiring me to do the work says I can talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder. So, but I do have other things in the work. So keep your eyes open. Adam says thingy is a technical term, but of course it is. Absolutely. Yes. It's a great term to use with lawyers too, because they're the ones who use that word all the time. You just tell them thingy, and no matter what the thingy is, they know exactly what you're talking about. So it's pretty cool. Yes.
I can vouch for that, because at work we actually had a patent go through with a spelling mistake in it. It actually got approved, and they have a patent
with a spelling mistake.
Yep. It was originally supposed to be a contactless form of payment system. And it actually got approved by the government as countless payment system. I'm not sure how that works, but the lawyers, I don't
think that's Turing complete if it can't count.
Anyway, I just let it go.
Vintage Tech guy, that is Logan. He's not Logan. Logan. Are you going to review Henry's Revision 7 board? I don't have any plans to review that in the short term. No. How can I put it? I love that project. I love that he has a replacement Apple II Plus board out there for those who want it. And can you imagine putting one of those boards with one of his supplies in the MacFX Clear case? You can basically today build an Apple II Plus from scratch. You don't have to go out and buy one. It's cheaper to go out and get one on eBay right now, but you can have your own custom Apple II if you want, and that is cool. But it's just an Apple II board. There's nothing special. I don't want to say there's nothing special about it. That's kind of sounds kind of mean, but it's just a bog standard replacement board. So I don't have a need for one, so I haven't ordered one. And the things I tend to review are things that I tend to play with, that I'm going to be using just to futz around with for the most part. So the answer to that question is I don't have any plans to do that now. I also have 4 or 5 other projects already in the works. Plus, I've got a couple boards in. I do, in case anybody's curious, I do repair of Mac boards and Apple II boards for people. So I've got a lot of stuff on my bench. So if it was on my bench, it's like months out at this point. So yeah.
If I ever get my future sound card back, I'll have you clone it.
Yes, that's one of the projects I'm working on, isn't it? Yes,
maybe.
Yeah. Trust me, you're high up on the list. I do have a couple things that are kind of time critical at the moment. But in case anybody is curious about that, I have both an Apple III soft card. The CPM card for the Apple III that I'm cloning, that I found out after I started to talk about it. Somebody else had already beat me to it. So I'm probably going to proceed with doing it anyway, and whoever ends up being more popular will be the one that will be out there, and then whoever wins. But I also need to have that as a process anyway to learn how to reverse engineer, again, copy a board. That card is not complicated. The most complicated thing on it is it has a single ROM that's really weird that you have to find a compatible one and dump it and whatnot. That's no big deal. The other thing, though, that I do have planned is I have a Titan set for the Apple III that Petar has very kindly loaned to me. It's right over back here in the safe harbor back here, where I'm not going to trip over it and break it. And again, this is why I wanted to get experience in doing this reverse engineering with a board that is slightly less rare and slightly less crazy, The Titan boards are like hen's teeth. It's, those pairs of boards. What exactly, do you want to tell everybody what exactly it allows you to do in detail?
Yeah, it's kind of simple. It allows you to take your Apple III or 3 Plus and turn it into a 128K Apple IIe with, if you upgrade the CPU, basically an enhanced IIe at that.
Cool.
So you have the full 6.5 CO2 in it. And it lets you have mouse text as well, or most of mouse text, put it that way.
Gotcha. So basically it allows you to have a really, really expensive Apple II.
Exactly.
Good. Cool.
With only 2 slots available.
Perfect. But, a lot of people love those boards, and they are nearly impossible to get. And so I figured I might try my hand at reverse engineering those. And again, reverse engineering in this case, most of it is copying. Basically, you have to take the PCB and scan it in a scanner, throw it in a program, and redraw the traces and get it all laid out, print out a test, lay it over top of the board when you get it from your manufacturer, all this stupid stuff just to make sure the board is physically the same. But what gets hard, especially on this Titan, is it has GAL and PAL chips on it, these little gated array logics. They're kind of like ROMs, but they're more akin to a very early state machine, like a CPLD, a programmable logic array is basically what it is. And you have pins that could be either inputs or outputs, depending on how you've gated it together. If you have some of the more complex ones, they're actually registered, so they have little memory unit or memory cells in them. So you can't. It's not like you can just dump it or throw different logic combinations out of it to get the data out. There could be millions or billions of logic combinations that tiny little chip could have. So the hard part is copying that friggin' chip. The board is easy. The chip is the hard part.
Or at least finding what the algorithms are.
Yeah. Like what does this chip do? And there are services where if you throw enough money at them, they have specialized machines where they have mastered the art of blowing through all of those sequences, those potential sequences, to get the equation list out for it that you can then burn to a new equivalent chip. If we're lucky, the chips in this are in they're not in protect mode. Now that's another thing to talk about these GALs and PLAs. They have a special little fuse that can be set that if you set it in protect mode, you can't read the equations back out. And that's just to protect people's intellectual property, right?
Yeah.
The applied engineering cards were huge with that. All of the applied engineering cards until they got really, really late, where they stopped caring, right? Where they're like, we're going down with we're going to stop setting it. Or somebody like on one production run forgot to hit the button to set them to protect it.
That's how we got the Transwarp GS chips, right?
Exactly. Somebody is like a very late version. They weren't set, so they were able to be dumped. You can unset that, but the moment you unset it, it blanks the chip. You have to blank the chip to unset it, basically. Gotcha. So getting that out of there, you've got to send it over to China or Korea or something like that. This one tiny little 14-pin chip that's worth like billions of dollars because it's the only one on Earth, and hope they don't fry it checking it. That's so that's the trick. So,
or don't let me put it on my board.
No.
I'll blank it.
And only 2 slots. Look how they massacred my boy. So it only allows you to have 2 slots because this Titan set takes up 2 cards, but it doesn't have to take up 2 boards.
Really?
Because, well, why would it? Why would it need to take up 2 boards? That's the question. Because
well, I guess it's just power and it's not because it's putting the memory bus across that little that ribbon cable, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're familiar with it, it's 2 boards and it's got a tiny little bus connector between the 2 boards to connect these 2 boards together so that the 2 boards can communicate without actually talking on the Apple bus. I'll just say the second board, whichever, the one that's not in control, I don't want to use, we'll just use the second board. Yeah. We don't want to use any of those old bad terms that we used to use. If the second board doesn't actually need to talk to the Apple III, and it's just in the slot because it needs to be in a slot, if we use newer surface mount components and make the board just a little bit longer, we might be able to put the whole thing on one board. Plus, because it's surface mount, you can put it on both sides of the board. Because they're so flat, they're not going to interfere with stuff in other slots.
That's cool.
And then you're going to have a 3-slot Apple III.
Yeah, because that second board, basically, from what I was,
it's like just memory.
It's just the next extra 64K of memory.
And so if it's literally secondary, yes. So if it's literally just memory, a single chip these days, a single SRAM chip, you just throw that on the front side of the board and you're done. You don't even need that second. This
board could be very interesting.
Lots of other questions we got people throwing around. Mac Effect says he would buy one. I'm not sure. I think he was talking about the CPM card. Somebody way back said, when is the LED kit for the clear case going to be released? That is already technically released. That is an open source project. If you go to my website, jcm-1.com/neopixel, I will put that in the chat if I can. jcm-1.com/ if it'll take it. What Herb is asking about is back at last Kansas Fest, and then recently I used an Arduino to talk to an Apple II to control a NeoPixel strip, so I could put this nice bright multicolor LED strip in my clear case Apple II. And he's asking, when is that going to be up for purchase or whatever? And I'm like, well, you can just, like, I could sell it as a kit, but you're going to have to assemble it anyway. You're going to have to program it anyway. This stuff is literally dime a dozen. There is nothing special about this project other than the code. So I released it as an open source. You can provide your own Arduino, whatever NeoPixel strip kit you want. If you want to get really fancy, you can use one of these arrays and try to program one of those arrays with it and stick it up underneath and have like put it up underneath your clear case and have it show Pac-Man or something. You can do all that type of stuff if you really want to. But yeah, if you just go to that link I put in the chat, which I will check to the real chat and see if it came through. It did. Yes, it did. If you go to that, you can just download the code and do your whole thing, and yeah, you can just make it yourself. Can you make a mouse work on this Apple III? That's a good question. I don't know. Adam asked that. In Apple,
Sure.
if you have the Titan set,
yeah, with that
and throw a mouse card at it, it would probably work.
Nope. Yeah, actually, it does work.
Okay, so you do know it works. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And that's because basically what the Titan set is effectively doing is it's taking over the Apple III and shutting off the computer underneath, and it's an Apple II that is controlling all of the peripheral circuitry. So it's turning off the special Apple III stuff. It's very similar to how accelerators work on the Apple II, where basically they hold the ready line of the CPU on the Apple II itself low so that it's not going to run, and then it'll run at speed, and it does all this other weird logic. It's basically the same thing. Yeah. It's using the Apple III as an over-glorified terminal.
Yeah,
effectively.
Kind of like the A2 Pi project as well.
Yeah, exactly. Mark says he's had experience decapping and imaging chips, and it's quite a process. So hopefully we can dump these GAL chips for the Titan without having to decap them, because decapping is a permanent destruction, and we don't want to destroy a working Titan set that I know is for certain working. I'm not going to destroy boards somebody sends me to do that, so we're not doing that. So it assimilates the Apple II, Jeremy? Yes. Resistance is futile.
That's right.
Geek with Social Skills is saying, hey, Petar, we missed you last night, but I hope you had a nice dinner.
Yes, I did.
Good. That's good. Vintage Tech Guy, again, that's Logan. He's like, he said, he is asking a question. Am I still working on that video addresser I said on your 8-bit computer project? By working on, you mean every couple of days or so I have those weird shower thoughts about it? Yes. I haven't really gotten much farther on it. In case anybody's curious, they haven't seen my video on that. I made an 8-bit computer in the vein of a Kim one. Basically, it's a 6502 based 8-bit computer, but I'm kind of doing the thing that the 8-bit guy is doing and making my dream 8-bit computer. But I got up to the process of creating the video controller for it because I want to have top-notch but old-school TV-based video capabilities for it. Because I want to be like half authentic and half not authentic. And so if you follow that video series, you'll see I went to this insane level of craziness with breadboards designing an NTSC video controller, which would work if I throw bits at it. If I throw data at it, it will show on the screen whatever I want it to show, but I've got to figure out how to re-engineer that using not 47 chips, and do it a little bit more intelligently, figure out how to integrate it into the memory scheme of the I keep saying Apple, the memory scheme of the JCM1 computer, in a way that I like, if that makes sense. Like you can do it the way the Apple II did it, where you're sharing the video bus back and forth, where on half the cycle, the video system of the Apple II, which in the original Apple II is like 3/4 of the machine. On one half of the cycle, the video has got control, and the other half, the CPU's got control, and it just uses that quirk of the 6502, where it only needs to talk to the bus on every other cycle or every half cycle. I could do that, but then I have that would give me limitations of how many colors I can put on the screen, how many sprites I can have on the screen, and stuff like that. If you're a Commodore person, you'll understand that it only has 16 colors. It can only have so many sprites on the screen at a time, and that's all because it's memory mapped. And when you do that memory mapping, you only have so much memory that you can throw at it, right? When you start to talk about number of bits per pixel and the number of sprites, where you have to locate all that in memory, you will swallow up the entire 64K memory space of the 6502 like that. It takes 56K of memory just to display a full screen of 256 colors.
Wow.
By itself. So you have to do tile mapping and figure out, so am I going to use tiles? Am I going to do it like the NES, where each tile has its own settable palette and uses layers of indirection? Basically, this points to that, which points to that, which points to that, which tells it which color to put on which pixel and all of that other stuff. So to all roundabout, to answer his question, I'm going to get to it eventually. It might be 5 years from now, but it's the only thing that's really left, in that project. So I'll get to it eventually to answer that question. People saying resistance are futile. Adam McGowie is saying there are 4 slots. Again, that's another Star Trek reference. Galorndon Core and F. Murray Abraham in that wonderful scene with Jean-Luc Picard. Shower thoughts. Shower thoughts is engineering. Bill accordingly. Yep. Yes. Shower thoughts are those thoughts you have in the shower when your mind is wandering and you're half awake and you're like sort of dreaming. So the pressure of the day hasn't hit you yet. So you're free to actually think. And that's where all your best ideas come from. It's like the bathroom thoughts. Like Eddie Van Halen, for example, had a full rack of recording gear and a guitar in every bathroom in his house in his recording studio at all times because, quote, you never know when inspiration will strike. That's what shower thoughts are.
That's where innovation happens.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So anyway, but yeah, lots of stuff going on in the Apple II and the Apple III world. I am glad to be a part of that and glad to be part of this community and try to help out. I'm glad to have folks like Petar here too, to help out and help me get these things programmed and figured out. And everybody out there watching who's supporting the things that we do in whatever way that they feel they need to support that's fine, whether they're actually doing the hacking right along with us or whether they're just they have their own computer and they're engaging in the fun. That is the whole point, right? That just to get out there, have fun, and be nice to each other. So well, I don't think we got anything else to talk about. I think we covered
for now
what I wanted to talk about, what you wanted to talk about, and a whole bunch of other things. So, so I think we're gonna. It's about an hour. I try not to make streams that are too long. So unless anybody has any other further questions for Petar than me, I think we are going to sign off for the evening. Any final words, sir?
Thank you for allowing me to help out with this project. It was fun. It came at a great time, and I learned a whole lot that wasn't planning on, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you very much for your graciousness. I apologize. There you go, Michael. There's your apology. I apologize again for getting the date wrong. Lemon Herb, that's Herb from K-Fest fame. He's asking, K-Fest registration is May 1st, right? I am 99% sure that is correct. It is almost always May 1st. Every year or right around there. So yeah, that is true. Just to put that shout out out there, any of you Apple II fans who have not been to K-Fest, virtual K-Fest, we're doing it virtually this year, is a great way to get to know K-Fest ahead of time without having to physically go there. K-Fest is called Kansas Fest. It's usually held in Kansas every year. We all go to Rockhurst University, get together, and get our nerd on. Craziness. But the past couple of years, because of COVID, it's been virtual. We all jump in a whole bunch of virtual live streams together for 2 or was it 3 days last year? 2 or 3 straight days of just nerding out, talking to each other in Discord and jumping in and doing the whole thing. Herb says it pales in comparison to the real thing. In a way, it does. I was on the final podcast last year and there was a lot of mention in that. Yeah, it is not the same as being there physically, but it is at least something we at least get together. We get to see faces like Petar, Herb, and I'm sure there's a couple other people in the chat whose names I'm forgetting at the moment who've been there. We get to actually talk to each other. We get to do our co-stream with the Wozfesters down in Oz in New Zealand. We're like at 11 or 12 p.m. and it's noon for them, and it's like awesome sauce. But it's K-Fest is a great thing. If you haven't been, you need to sign up for this year. Come to the virtual thing, even if you're there for one day. Hang out, catch some of the panels, get to learn some of these names in the community. So the next time you're in any of the boards and you see somebody's name, you're like, I know that guy. He's a cool guy. I won't feel bad about asking him a question. So.
That's right.
Is there an admission fee for K-Fest? Yes, there is. I don't know what it is. When you go to K-Fest in person, it's actually, I don't want to say it's expensive exactly, but basically you're paying for room and board for yourself for 3 or 4 days. So it's a lot cheaper than renting a hotel room. I will say that much. But you get your own room or a room you share with somebody if you choose to do that. You get free lunch and dinner every day. You get to go out and have cool after dinner parties with people, pizza parties, stuff like that. Yep. So it is really cool. They're saying there's 2 tiers for the virtual K-Fest. It's like $10 and $20 this year. That is nothing. That is a steal to come and hang out with a whole bunch with your friggin' friends. Lay down a 20 and show up. Yep. I'm challenging everybody there, everybody in the chat right now, and everybody who watches this video between now and K-Fest 2021. If you're not there, I'm going to be personally disappointed. Yep. So show up and be there, okay?
I think it's a Friday and Saturday as well.
Yeah, so
it's only 1 day off for me for work. So
yeah. So it's a really cool thing to get to hang out with your friends. And as Herb says, fry some 74 LS 125s. That's a little in joke amongst us Apple II guys about the chip in the disk control or the analog card on the disk 2 drive, where if you put the cable on off by 1, it puts 12, or backwards, it puts 12 volts on the chip, and they literally explode. It's fun. It's the smell of burnt chips, especially when you're at K-Fest in person. That is just kind of sort of in the background of the air at all times. Somebody's gonna be taking their stuff down to the noisy part of the dorms where they do all the hacking. That's the other thing too. The real in-person K-Fest, they have that whole room where Kate is there, and gosh, what's his name? I believe his name is Adam is there. Sark is there.
Sark, the Monitor Man.
Yes, and lots of other people are there, and they're the folks that you bring your broken Apple II and they'll fix it for you live in front of you. Well, they usually don't like you staring at them, staring them down, but and that smell, it's great. Like, it's awesome. So, Adam's going to be there. Yes. Sark's repair shop. Yes. It's a wonderful time. So any other questions before we let it go? I don't think so. I think we're good. So I want to thank everybody for stopping by tonight. Again, thanks, Petar, for helping out with the Apple III encoder. Thanks for stopping by tonight on the right date. Again,
that's right.
Michael, I apologize. There's your apology again. And see you later, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.